Hey, it's Orit, and I will keep this intro short because I already had an intro in the intro of the original video that I did. And today I'm answering all your questions about building a profitable online business through your expertise as a dance movement therapist or perhaps similar field, earning 5-figure months and working with the clients you love. So no more trying to make ends meet, right? By working with clients that honestly, like sometimes we secretly dread. So I recorded this live on Facebook. So at the end of the video, I said, if you want to have a chat about this and get started with your own and earn lots of money for doing the exact work that you love without sacrificing your time, without sacrificing your self-care, then I'm going to leave a link in the podcast episode notes or in the blog post if you're listening to this on the website. And you can click on that. We'll book a free and obligation-free chat just to see what you're thinking, what ideas are coming up, and then we'll see if it's a good fit to work together. And regardless, if we take those next steps, you will understand exactly what you need to do next to create your dream vision online business, or perhaps local business, if that's what you're looking for. Enjoy!
This is Mind Your Body, a dance movement therapy perspective on the integration of our emotional, cognitive, physical, and spiritual aspects of our being into one more aware and whole existence.
Hello, it's Orit here, and this video has been a long time coming, and I'm happy to finally make some space to do it. I've been getting a lot of messages, emails, etc., asking me, how do I do what I do? So before I get into that, if you don't know me, I am a board certified dance movement therapist. I quit my job in June 2018, I believe, and I quit it to start my own online business. Huge leap, but I knew I was destined for something much bigger. I quit my position as director of expressive therapies in a psychiatric hospital after 9 years of working as a dance therapist in a few different public institutions. And I was like, there's gotta be more. There's gotta be more to dance therapy than this. Than honestly being overworked, underpaid, and working with clients who a lot of the times weren't quite as passionate about doing the work as we are, as I'm sure you know and have experienced yourself. So, I am kind of a trendsetter in this way. There's been a few people following me in my footsteps of quitting their jobs, starting their own business. So exciting, like just building this new path for us. And like, just because we're dance therapists doesn't mean that we need to make $50K a year and struggle to make ends meet while working with clients we sometimes secretly dread working with, right? So whether you're in private practice or you're still working in an institution, you know this to be true. It's like sometimes we just gotta work with the people we gotta work with just to get a paycheck or just to like pay the rent. And I want to tell you that it doesn't have to be like that. Yes, it takes some risk, some overcoming fear and all that, but the other side is just amazing. So I've built my own online business, helping women specifically who have experienced trauma in the past, who are now sabotaging their relationships, and they know they need to heal their trauma in order to save their marriage. And I help them through dance. I'll help them through dance movement therapy, but I don't call it dance movement therapy, and I'll get into that. I call myself an embodiment coach, but I use my almost 10 years of expertise and knowledge and skills as a dance therapist to help them do this. And I was definitely stunned when I had my first, honestly, when I had my first clients, when I had my first 5K month, when I had my first 10K month. Actually, I made $10,000 in one day, which was like totally wild in its own way. And my first 17K month. I'm still trying to get to that, trying to break through the ceiling and get to 20K. But anyway, like, it's crazy. I'm doing exactly what I love, working with exactly the clients I want to work with, who really want to work with me, who choose me as well, and making a shit ton of money. So understandably, a lot of people have reached out and asked me a lot of questions. And if, I haven't had the space to answer them, but I was like, you know what, I'm going to make a video. I'm going to turn this into a podcast episode, and I'm going to answer all your questions. So if any questions pop up while you're watching this video, you can leave a question in the comments. If I'm still live, I'll answer that for you. If I'm done and you're watching the recording, if I can, I'll answer in the comments, or we may just have to book a chat if it's a little complicated. So I'm gonna drink some water. All right. So I've got these questions here, and I was like, I'm gonna purposely not think about it or prepare, and I'm just gonna answer as authentically as I can, because that's part of having a successful business, is being authentic. So the first question is, and these came from a few different people, and I'm just going to keep it anonymous because it's confidential. So the first question is, would you recommend me to focus just on an online business, or do you think I could also develop face-to-face sessions and training? So honestly, that's up to you, right? Like, whether you want to do face-to-face sessions, you want to do local sessions, or if you want to do online, or if you want to do both. It depends on your situation. It depends on what you want. You have to make that decision based on what you're passionate about, what your limitations are, what kind of expansion you want to reach in your business. For the sake of this video, I'm going to focus on online business, because when you start an online business, so one of the reasons I was like, I'm going to go online, or I'm going to do this online, and was like, I'm not doing a local private practice, is, first of all, I live in a really small state, and I've probably seen most of the clients in the psychiatric hospital that I worked with. And so such a small population. And at this point, I had already started my podcast, Mind Your Body. And I was getting all these emails from people like, whoa, I live in this, bumblefuck middle of nowhere town, and we've got nothing like this. Thank you so much for giving us access to dance therapy knowledge, et cetera, et cetera. And then I was like, wow, there must be so many people in the world who really want to do dance therapy as clients, but they don't have that access. And so I was like, just from there, started thinking bigger and bigger. Like, when we go online, we have the world at our reach. When you do a local business, you've just got the local area, which is fine, totally cool if that's what you want to do. But there's so many limitations for that. For me, I knew that if I did a local practice, that my income would be capped. My range of clients would be capped, because unless you're really, really famous for what you do in your local area, or maybe you're the only one who does it and you can really communicate the value of it, maybe you can charge, I don't know, $200 a session or something like that, which it does sound nice if that's moving up, but that's still a cap. And when you go online, you can create whatever practice or business you want. You can price your services in whatever way you want. When you go online and you become a specialist, which I'll talk about a little bit more, in your field, not in your field like dance therapy, but in your niched area, you become known as the expert in that area, and people will pay you for that. Like, they want to work with someone who really knows their shit and who's really good at it. So the possibilities online are just huge. I've only got like 1,500 followers right now on my Facebook page, for example. That's nothing, honestly, nothing compared to what 2 billion people on Facebook. And I've still reached these amazing income goals in my business. So just imagine you can build a following of 100,000 people or more. Imagine what is that gonna bring for you? Millions of dollars. So I personally think going online. Now, of course, if you're just doing that for the money, that's not the reason. You need to have a bigger reason why. My why is I want to make the world a better place. I know that sounds so cheesy, but if I can reach a whole lot of people around the world and I can make them happier in their marriages, then they're going to be happier. Then the people they interact with are going to be happier. Then those people they interact with are going to be happier, and so on and so forth. And love spreads. Okay, I know it sounds really cheesy, but that's my why. So yes, going online, you can reach millions of dollars in your income yearly. You get a huge, much bigger range of clients. Those are great reasons, but you need a why. So what's your purpose? What's your purpose in starting this business? That's also the answer to the original question. Should I do face-to-face or should I do online business? I knew that face-to-face was not going to fulfill me and the kind of meaning that I wanted to bring to the world. Okay, so number 2 is, have you got any tips on how to decide or find my niche and finding my specialization and what to call me? Okay. Those are a few questions in there. So I'll start with saying, don't worry about what to call yourself right now. That like, people will get stuck on, what should I name my Facebook page, or what should I call myself? An embodiment coach or embodiment specialist or dance healer, and they get stuck on that for so long, and it doesn't matter right now. It's just a way to honestly procrastinate doing the work that you really need to do to get started. So don't worry about calling yourself anything right now. The most important thing, as part of what you asked, is finding your niche / specialization. So have I gotten any tips on how to decide or find my niche? Yeah. I'm going to be honest with you. For different reasons, it took me a long time to really settle on my niche. And part of the reason is because I tried to do it alone for way too long, and I wasn't being honest with myself. And part of that was because I wasn't moving. Everyone in the beginning was like, people who weren't movers, dance therapists, they were like, well, if you're having trouble like in your business or deciding what you want to do, you should move. That's your modality, right? And I'm like, yeah, that's fine. Like, I'll move. And I was so resistant. So if you're not moving to start your business, then you need to ask yourself, are you really ready? Or what are you resisting? What are you procrastinating? So I made all these mistakes that you don't have to. Start moving right away. And finding your niche is really about tapping into your purpose that you've had your entire life. So, I specialize in relationships, right? For the longest time, I can remember, like, I picture, he's a 90s kid, I picture AOL Instant Messenger. And like my friends would IM me and be like, oh, like this boy doesn't like me or whatever. I don't know what the problem was, but I would always be like, yes, I love this stuff. Like, I'll answer your questions about your relationship, like, or your crush or whatever. I just always loved giving relationship advice. So, and I still do. I still love talking about relationships. I had my own struggle with my own marriage for a while, and have done deep healing to resolve my trauma that was getting in the way of like having this deep lasting love with Aaron. And that is so meaningful to me. I could talk about that forever. So it's like your niche, whatever your niche or your specialization is, you're going to have to talk about that and focus on that and work with that all the time for a while until you're big enough to not have such a small niche. So what are you passionate about? What brings you meaning? What have you always loved doing? What is your purpose? That is where you should be heading in your specialization. Now, it takes more than just kind of answering those questions. Again, you can move around it. And sometimes it's trial and error and like a process of pivoting. So I'm trying to think. I started a lot of different ways, but once I got closer to the niche that I'm specializing in now, that one started with realizing like, oh, I had an abusive relationship in my life growing up, or had a few. And so I really want to help women who have experienced abusive relationships. I don't want to help women who are currently in abusive relationships. No. I'm done with that. Came from the psychiatric hospital, working with women and men and children and all that with severe, acute, current trauma. First of all, was very done with that. And second of all, I don't feel comfortable supporting that kind of issues, those kinds of instability online. So specifically, women who have experienced abusive relationships in the past, I wanted to help them have better relationships. And then that shifted, so you can pivot. So then I was like, I'm going to focus on women who've experienced trauma. It doesn't have to be just abusive relationships, because again, through trial and error, I started talking to people in this area, and they were like, well, I don't think it was abusive, but like my father neglected me and blah, 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 blah. And it was like all these instances of trauma. And I was like, yeah, I love that too. I've been through plenty of my own traumas. I love helping women who have experienced trauma. I also love helping men and people who are non-binary and all that. But in niching, you do have to choose one. You also have to know who you really love working with. So think about your favorite clients, your favoriteest clients. What are they dealing with? What's the common thread there? Why do you love working with them? So I had realized my favorite clients had trouble in relationships as well. My favorite clients are around 35 to 45, give or take. They're in that range. They've experienced trauma a long time ago. They've tried talking about it. They've tried meditation. They've tried all this mind stuff, and it's not working for them. So like, who are your favorite clients? I would like the client that you could work with forever, the client that you're like, if I could only work with one person, it would be this person. That's your ideal client. That's your avatar. That's who you can base your niching around right now. So yeah, I think I've said enough about that. I'm going to have a sip of water, probably between every question. Okay. So how do I get started? Where and how do I advertise? And how do I develop an efficient routine that I can easily follow on a daily basis to make my work easier? Yeah, those are really two very different questions, like the question of getting started and then the question of routine, which is like when you settle into after you get started. So I'll answer, how do you get started, where and how do you advertise? That all depends on how quickly you want to grow your business, how much money you currently have to invest. I didn't pay for any advertising for, I don't know how long it was, but it wasn't until October of 2019. So a while. I got all my clients through my Facebook page, different Facebook groups, built relationships and all of that. So depending on your niche, you can then find some Facebook groups that are relevant and you can start building relationships there and sharing your expertise, according to the group rules. So if you're short on cash, if you want to do some lean marketing for a while, test out your message first while you're kind of figuring out exactly what's going to get your client to be like, yes, I want to work with you. I think Facebook groups are great. You might also already have a bunch of people who are just waiting to work with you. I see a lot of people who have like a vortex of warm leads and they have a following and people love them, yet we have no idea what the hell you're offering. So they're like, well, you're sitting on a bed of hot leads. If you just were really clear and direct about how you can help them, you can make a 10K day like I did, right? You could make a lot of money. It's already right there. You just have to be upfront and clear about how you're going to be able to support them. Whether you have that bed of leads already or not, you could do the Facebook groups. There's a few different ways to go. Again, it's up to you and what's aligned with you and what's right for you. And then in terms of developing an efficient routine that you can follow on a daily basis, yeah, wouldn't that be great, right? Because right now, if you're overworked and underpaid, you probably are really fucking tired of being extremely busy, having no space and time for yourself. So yeah, it's nice to have a routine. It's nice to know what to post every day and just have this like smooth working machine that at this point, I have a virtual assistant who posts for me. She schedules it for me. I still write all my own stuff. And I would say don't worry about that right now. If you are just getting started, you're not ready. You're not ready for that routine. I mean, I just think it's like you can start off with a routine, like a loose routine, but the more that like you really need to do your niche, you really need to get your niche figured out first and just come up with the first steps. This is a little bit of the later step, but like, yeah, for now, if you are going the Facebook groups way, you could be like, okay, like 10 a.m. I post 10 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. I post in all the Facebook groups and blah, 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 blah. 11 to 11:30, I write this. That's easy. The other stuff's a bit more complex and needs some more work. All right, next question. How do I build a good website? So I'm guessing the question is more about not like technically, but a website that will bring clients in and convert, or bring potential clients in or bring leads in and convert them into clients. If you are just starting out, let me be real honest with you. Do not build a website. Just don't do it. Again, I'm telling you my mistakes. And don't repeat my mistakes. Just, I want to save you time and money and energy. Don't build a website yet, because if you don't know your niche, if you don't know your specialty, if you haven't tested out your marketing, your written marketing, your copy, we call it, then you're going to be changing your website 6 months down the line anyway. People told me this over and over again, like, don't worry about your website. And I was like, nah, I need it. I need a website. Like, everyone else has one. And my husband, Aaron, is a graphic or a web designer, and he built me a website. And it was even like, maybe even a year into my business, and I still had to change the whole thing again, like a few months later. So don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Start with a Facebook page and start posting on social media and start experimenting there, because that's how you'll learn, ooh, this is the kind of stuff that like attracts my ideal clients. This is the kind of stuff that gets engagement. You could build a whole website. You could pay thousands of dollars writing a whole website, designing a whole website, and like, it has nothing to do with what you really want to do. I put like 100% intention and alignment into my visual branding. Shout out to Lauren Higgins, who told me she submitted one of my visual branding, or she submitted something of mine, my website, to a visual branding artist who needed to like analyze or practice or something, and said it was so good and intentional and all really tied together and yada, yada, yada. Your visual branding also needs to be that aligned to attract exactly the clients you want to work with. So in all aspects, building a website too early is a huge waste of time, money, and energy. And there are more important things you need to be doing to get your business off the ground. All right. All right, next one is a juicy one. All right. Okay. Oh, I'm so glad I just clicked on my profile, because I just saw your question, Chelsea. Who did you have help you with your branding? That's my next step. So here was my process. This was the process that my coach recommended to me. To start a Pinterest board and like gather a Pinterest board of all the things you really, really like, and elements, like different elements that you like, and just put it all there and see what colors there are, make a board. Well, you don't have to make a board on Pinterest, it makes a board for you. And here's my added layer as a dance therapist: move with it, see if it feels right in your body, see if it feels aligned to the clients that you want to bring in. And then you can pick the colors from it, you can pick the elements. Like I love plants, I love succulents, I love like hanging plants. I had a lot of that in there. And so a lot of my branding has like the flowery plants kind of thing. In terms of colors, like that's where the colors came from, colors that looked good on me as well, which was like tied into my photo shoot. And then I don't remember how I picked the font, but my header font is called Dancing Script, so it fits. And it just, again, it's like, if you want to build a business that's aligned and that feels, that feels right, then take it all in, feel it in your body, move with it. You can always be like, actually that element doesn't feel right, let me change it. I've always stuck with greens and blues and beach scenes. Yeah, I mean, and so that's like, what do you want to communicate with that? I wanted to communicate, I wanted a minimalistic design, because, for example, we don't need all this fancy shit to heal our trauma. We don't need the crystals and bells and I don't know, whatever else that my ideal client has tried and hasn't worked. We just need to tune into our bodies and feel what's inside and work with what's in our bodies. Minimalistic. We don't need all that external stuff. We just need to look within. So you make it really intentional like that. Like, what are your core values that you convey, that you provide, that you co-create with your clients? So start with the transformation. Start with a Pinterest board. Yeah, I want to communicate calmness because my ideal client struggles with anxiety. Yeah, there you go. And then, like, calmness can be one of those things, and then you can make a list. Make a list of anything else you want to communicate for your brand. You could hire a branding expert. They can help you with that. Or you could give it a go on your own, and then maybe ask a visual branding expert if, I don't know what they do. I just know that this was what I did, and that worked for me. But I'm guessing you could probably hire someone and be like, hey, this is what I want to communicate. Is this right? I have a web designer for a husband, so I had some help there as well. All right, I'm going to move on, but let me know if you have any other questions about that. All right, question. How do I price my services according to the clients in different countries I will serve, different cultural expectations around the value of a therapy session? Do you recommend having different rates depending on economical value or economical level? Okay. Make one rate. That's my recommendation. Like, here's the thing. I know that there are different cultures that have different values and expectations and perspectives about what therapy should cost, right? When I went to Thailand, it was amazing. I got a massage every day. A massage was $7 US because they prioritize the massage. Massage is recommended by a doctor or prescribed by a doctor, right? So it costs less. It's widely used, et cetera, et cetera. So yes, that's real, but it's not, you're not communicating, when you market your stuff, your services, you're not communicating the value of a therapy session. You are communicating and advertising and providing the value of the transformation that you provide. So what's the value? What is the value of the transformation you provide? I help people save their marriages. They could be spending over $100,000 in divorce costs, in moving costs, in mental health support for the emotional devastation that causes. I don't charge $100,000 for my work, but I take that into consideration. Like, how much money am I saving them, and how much is it worth for them to save their marriage? So I want you to, like, eliminate this idea that we provide a session, a 60-minute session once a week, and each session is this amount of money. This is traditional, old school. This is a traditional, old school paradigm. Now, that's fine. I think it's great that there's low-cost services, sliding scales, yada, 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 but that's not the conversation we're having here right now. The conversation we're having here right now is building a business that's successful and profitable, where you earn 5-figure months and you help people create huge transformation in a relatively short amount of time. Therapy traditionally is a really, like, ongoing maintenance kind of thing, right? I mean, there's breakthroughs and transformation that happens with that, but it's expected to be a longer term, be in therapy for years. So you have to shift your paradigm from this is the value of a therapy session to this is the value of the transformation I provide. So I don't recommend changing your prices based on country and all that stuff. Have one price. If someone can't afford it, depending on where they're at, then there's a whole lot of next steps that you can go from there. From keeping them in your business to a lower cost program, to, I don't know, some other things that I don't personally do. I'm building lower cost things as well because I do want to help people who need some more help affording the services. So make it one price. And on that note, the next question is, how do you break? Oh wait, I didn't really answer how do I price my services. Yeah, so how do I price my services is a very complex answer, more complex than you might think. Normally what we do is, and I'm guilty, I did this when I first started out online, I Googled, dance therapist here, dance therapist there, how much are they charging? Oh, $100, $125. Okay, I'll charge around the same thing. So that's what we usually do. We usually see what other people are charging, what's the kind of normal rate for a session. Again, that's still in this old traditional psychotherapy paradigm, and that's how we'll price our services, right? Don't do that. I haven't said this straight out yet, but if your business isn't aligned to your values and what really feels right to you, then one, you're going to underprice your services. And that means you're going to get burned out really quickly, guilty, and you're going to have a frustration and resentment for doing that. Because you didn't get into an online business just to be overworked and underpaid again, right? And I was going to say another thing that I forgot, and then when you underprice your service, that's the level to which your client is going to step up and the level that you're going to bring. When I switched from $97 sessions to a $5,000 package, you best believe I brought a whole different level of transformation for my clients. And they expected, not that they expected that, but they were ready for that too. They were ready to commit and dedicate themselves to this transformation because that's how much they believed in the work and were ready for it. So pricing your services is multi-layered. You want to do it by the value of the transformation you provide, yada, yada, yada. I'm not going to get into the whole thing right now. And it has to feel right and aligned to you. Because the flip side is if you're charging more than you're comfortable with, you're going to sabotage, your sales calls. You're not going to believe that the price of your service is really worth it or fair, or you're going to convey that discomfort with it, and you're not going to be able to sell it. So it has to be right. And that's probably the extent I can answer that right now because we got a few more questions, and it's there's some steps to that process, including movement. All right, let me see if there's any other questions here. All right, and then a sub-question of that is, how do you break out of patterns of unworthiness when it comes to pricing your services? Yes, good question. And I think this answer is going to be different for everyone, but if you are a dance therapist or something similar, you have not been paid enough for your work, right? And first day of grad school, or it was orientation, a teacher said to me, you didn't do this for the money, right? So that was the message I got as soon as I became a dance therapist. So the unworthiness is not only reinforced by the low level of pay that we get in public institutions and even in private practice. It's also about your history and what kind of money values or beliefs you grew up with in your family. What was the message around money growing up? I had to do so much work around this, so much work. I grew up in a comfortable home, financially, but money a lot of the time was replaced or a substitute for love. Now, this is the way I saw it, right? My dad was really hardworking. He was never really around. We still don't have much of a relationship. And he provided for us really nicely. But instead of, what I really wanted with him, like a really loving, close relationship with my father, he got me a lot of material gifts and all of that. So the story that I built up was that money was a substitute for love. I can't have both. If I'm successful in my business, I can't have love. I can't have happiness. Saying that out loud, I'm like, yeah, no, of course I can have both. But this was so deeply embedded in my nervous system and my body and my beliefs that I had to do a lot of work on that. So you really need to find out what your old money story is, and first identify it and then work through it. And sometimes, actually, I would say most of the time, I did this with support from a money coach. You have to get support to do that because there's a lot of trauma around money. There's a lot of trauma around the money stories, and you cannot heal trauma on your own. You cannot do it yourself. So get support for that. And, break apart from that story, allow your nervous system to rewire from that and build new ideas and neural pathways around money. When I hear the word money or when I get a lot of money, I don't feel scared and shocked. I feel connected and loved and not loved, but I feel love and joy and freedom and all that. When I started making a lot of money really quickly in my business, I had a lot of anxiety. It was a great thing, but I was like, oh, I'm not used to this. And it was hard. There's a whole other story around that, but it was hard. You need to get your nervous system and your body on board with that. And so, yeah, let's see. Hope I answered that question. Another question is how to overcome fear to exposure to social media. Good question. I feel like I'm starting a lot of answers this way, but it really depends on what the fear is for you. I'm going to be totally honest. A huge fear for me that held me back for a really long time is that I would be shunned and rejected by other dance therapists. Because I was the first and only DMT to really do online business this way, I was afraid of judgment, criticism, people would be offended, et cetera, that for a very long time, for almost a year, I really held back. I stayed very professional on my Facebook lives. I wasn't being real. I wasn't being direct. I wasn't being honest because I was afraid that was going to betray my profession and that people in my profession would judge me. Because listen, as a dance therapist, I don't tell people what to do in our work together. I help them find the answers in their bodies. But when it's time to be on social media and educate people and help them move to work, to do this work, I need to be honest and direct and be myself and authentic. They have to like and trust and know me. And especially working with women in trauma, with women with trauma who are frozen and need a little to move, to take action. So I wasn't doing that because I was too afraid. And until once I realized that and I got over it, that's when everything started flowing in, clients, money, etc. So it depends on what your fear is. A lot of women have a fear of being attacked on social media. Like if they really express their opinion or they say something that's offensive, they're afraid of being attacked. That's usually connected to past trauma that we've experienced. Because if it's that scary for you, if your body is feeling it, that it's scary to that point, then you've got some stuff around that, right? You've got some baggage around that needs to be resolved. So the fear is connected to some, usually to something that you've experienced in your past that is unresolved in your body. So what is your fear? You know, you can start by making a list of all the worst things that can happen from being on social media. What is your worst nightmare? And then, you know, you can start from there. Oh, like where does that come from? Where's that story? Like when did that happen to me in my life? And take it to the next step, move with it, move through it, and keep showing up. Because am I not gonna have a successful business? Am I not gonna chase my dreams because I'm afraid that someone's gonna get offended? Oh, screw that. So, you know, and then it basically, like, I was like, you know what? Like, no. If someone doesn't like what I'm saying, they don't have to listen. This is Facebook. This is the internet. Like, there's plenty of stuff going on. Click on like, click on subscribe. If you don't like it, that's fine. You don't have to listen to me. You don't have to watch me. And so you need to have a certain balance of like boundaries of kind of that, where no, I'm gonna be real. I'm gonna say what I want, that I know is helpful, of course, with intention to, you know, with the right intention and alignment, while I keep a level of openness and vulnerability. Because if you're too guarded, people are gonna feel that, be like, oof, I don't want to work with her. Like something's up with it. So yeah, again, another multi-layered process. None of this stuff is like a one-word answer, like a one-sentence answer. It's so personal to you. Business is literally the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. I haven't had kids yet, but one of my coaches said having kids is easier than having a business. And it's not because strategy is hard. Like, strategy is pretty straightforward. It's about I tried this and it didn't work. Am I a failure? Am I not good enough? What about all these people who are successful? Look at them, they can do it. Why is it so easy for them? It's just not gonna work out. All of that shit, that's the hard part. So it really is personal to you. When you are starting, when you have a business, you're not out there with your business. You're out there exposed yourself, and you absolutely need the support to work through that and to overcome that if you ever want to have a very successful business. All right. A few more questions. I'm telling you, it's been a while. I've been collecting these for a while. Okay. What is the rule or regulation as it relates to practicing dance movement therapy online? Have you had to call your work therapeutic dance depending on your clients and their location, or can you practice DMT with no issue online? The regulation, like, well, I'll first say get a lawyer, ask your lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. Don't rely on me. I feel like I have to say that, but for real, get a lawyer and get your answer. But I'll say that you can only practice any kind of therapy online or offline with clients who are in the state or the states that you're licensed in. If you're not licensed in those states, you cannot call it therapy. So yes, as I said earlier in the video, I am an embodiment coach and I do embodiment coaching. A lot of people know that I'm a dance movement therapist, and that's cool. And I'll still say like I'm a board certified dance movement therapist, but I don't call what I do dance therapy anywhere. So this goes back to your niche, your specialty, and calling yourself whatever you call yourself. Again, the name really doesn't matter. You can call it just doesn't matter right now. My Facebook page is called Orit. It used to be called Orit Dance Movement Therapist, but for legal reasons, I took that off. So call yourself by your name right now. People want to get to know you anyway. And it doesn't matter what you call your modality or your title. It matters if your message speaks to your ideal client and makes them want to move to work with you and be like, oh my God, I need to work with you, and get out their credit card and pay. Speaking of, the next question is, how do you get clients that pay in advance? Hey, Elizabeth, I just got your question. I'll answer that after this one. How do you get clients that pay in advance? Ooh. So since the moment I started my online practice, I've only, is that right? I'm just like, am I lying right now? No, I don't think it's since the moment, but really early on in my online business, I only took upfront payments or one payment plan that I offered. So the first thing is you can make that the only option, but how do they actually pay you, right? How do you actually get them to want to pay you? Again, my one-on-one package, my 4-month package is $5,000. How do people actually pay that? Let me tell you, most people don't have $5,000 ready on hand, right? But they know they need the work. They know they need to do it. They are like, it's just an absolute yes in their bodies. And so they find a way. And the way that, like, the reason is because you've created an offer or package, service, whatever you want to call it, that meets their needs in such a way that they have to do it. And they see no other way. And you are the person that they do it with. That is a combination of going back to the niche, having a specific niche / specialty, knowing what they need, knowing what their biggest struggles are, knowing what their biggest dreams are and where they really want to be, and obviously providing that for them in your service. So your service needs to communicate that. You need to communicate that, most of all, that you can help them get from the point of suffering or hell or whatever you want to call it to the point of heaven or happiness, or again, whatever the results, whatever the outcomes are. And when you communicate that in a way that meets their every need, they will pay you in advance. They will find a way to pay you. One of my clients, former clients now, single mother of 3 children, one who has a disability. She drained, I don't want to say it that way. She used her entire savings account to work with me because she needed it. She was in a really difficult place. And you know what? The universe manifested like half that money back for her a week later. So, sometimes people really can't afford it. And, that's understandable, but there are also a lot of people who can't afford it, who are like, they love you, they trust you, whatever, they trust you and believe that you and them together, we together, can co-create this transformation. So you need to build a good offer, and you need to know how to sell it in a way that's, of course, not sleazy, in a way that's really aligned. Remember the alignment, and in a way that you're not attached to the outcome at all. That's really important too. Easier said than done, but also really important. And then they'll pay you. Cha-ching, they'll pay you. Okay, so let me see. How do you determine if a specific population would be successful through online DMT? How do you determine if it's too niche of a population? So in terms of, what do you mean successful through online DMT? Do you mean that dance therapy, like, how do I know that dance therapy would be the thing that works for the specific population I want to work with? Is that what you mean? And then I'll answer your second question while you answer my question. So how do you determine if it's too niche of a population? That's a good question. I would say most of the time it won't be too niche. I would say that we jump to this fear a lot of the times, whoever's building business, that it's so niche, nobody is going to show up, or nobody, like, I'm not really going to be speaking to anybody. But you need to be very, very, very niched, very, very specific if you want to be talking to anybody. Because if you're too general, if you're talking to everybody, you're talking to nobody, right? There's so much noise online. There are so many people who have online businesses who are talking about yada, yada, yada. And it's like, scroll, nah. But when you maybe you've experienced this, when you scroll past a post that's like, oh, is she talking to me? How did she know that I'm going through that? What? That's like, follow, like, message, maybe comment, whatever. It's like, wow. Last October, I was going through stuff with my mom, and it had been a long time coming where I was like, I'm unhappy with the relationship with my mom. I never really worked on it specifically, and there was this woman who kept posting like her offers about rebuilding the relationship with your mom. And I was like, it caught my eye a few times, and I was like, ooh, yeah, that's me. Like, this is something I really have wanted for a long time. When your messaging is that good and that specific, even if people don't realize it yet, they're like, oh, I want that, and I didn't even realize that. Like, I need that, and I didn't even realize. And eventually I was like, okay, I got to do this work. Like, I gotta fix this relationship with my mom. And like, that was a niche that, like, in this group of 30,000 people, no one else was talking about, but I needed it and other people needed it. So we invested in it. So I would say, niche down, or pick a niche, and most likely it is not too niched. And then I don't see a follow-up to the question that I asked you, but if your question is, would online DMT work for a specific population? I mean, I just take the cautionary route, and this is a question that I got. This is actually the last question that I got about doing DMT online, etc. Oh, here we go. Okay, so here's the follow-up. I've done some research and can't find DMT that specializes in it, which is a good thing and could be very successful. But then I get nervous that it wouldn't be, since other therapy support groups are the most popular forms of treatment. Do you want to share what it is? You don't have to, but I can just kind of answer your question right here if you'd like. So again, my niche, my specialty is super specific. Women who have experienced trauma in the past, who are currently bringing it into their relationships, to their marriage, and need to heal their trauma in order to save their marriage and have a lasting, loving relationship. All of that is my specific niche. No one's done a paper on that specifically. I mean, sure, there's stuff about relationships, there's stuff about people who are in current states of trauma, but like there's not going to be necessarily any paper that's going to be so specific on that. Postpartum depression and anxiety, so good, so needed. Perinatal mood and anxiety disorders. Yes, there are so many people, not dance movement therapists, who are doing that right now. I see a good amount of, of promo posts and all that in this area. So it doesn't matter that you're the only dance movement therapist doing that. What matters is, thing is, you've got a special, unique flair to how you help mothers with postpartum depression and anxiety, right? And that's the kind of stuff that you would talk about in your content, in your videos, in your blog posts, whatever, is that you help them realize that, like, doing it through dance, through movement, etc. Like, why is that unique? Why is that needed? So that would be part of, like, why is dance therapy? And it's not about dance therapy. It's like, how are you able to help them through that, right? There's so many people focusing on that right now, on postpartum depression, anxiety, etc. But you have a special flair because you're a dance therapist. You do this work through movement, and it doesn't matter if no other DMT specializes in that. Plus, I think there are some DMTs who specialize in that, not online, but it's really, all of these objections are like to be direct excuses, or like, oh, but I'm the only dance therapist who can do that, or who's doing that, or who wants to do that, or I don't know if blah, 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 whatever it is. That's just fear speaking. Because if you can tell these moms who so need you, if you can tell them, if you can communicate, if you can convey through your authenticity and through your knowledge and skills why you can help them, they will pay you. They will want to work with you. And there's nothing else. That's like full stop. That's it. Let me know if that answers your question. I think that's an amazing area to work with. All right. Next question. How much money did you have to spend to earn 5-figure months? Yeah, good question. I don't have, I didn't tally up everything, but up until this point, I've definitely spent a good amount, I don't know, $20,000, $30,000 total. Business coaching, business programs, mindset coaching, energetic coaching. I don't even know. A lot of support, because listen, like, you can't just get a business coach and call it a day. Like I said earlier in the video, you can know all the strategy in the world, but if your emotions are a roller coaster because, you didn't get enough engagement on a post, or because you're on a sales call and someone said no, like, if you're not aligned, if you're not grounded, if you're not in the right space, none of this is going to work. You can pay a coach $20,000 for business strategy. So yeah, at this point, up until I earned 5-figure months, I think I spent around $10,000. Oh yeah, money coach, that was the other one. So the biggest mistake that people make when they want to start a profitable business is that they say they can't afford to invest in it. They can't spend that kind of money. When in reality, that is exactly what it takes in order to build a 5-figure month business, to earn those 5-figure months. It is a journey. It is a valuable process, and we need to invest in that. We need support in all those layers and roadblocks and turns and swerves and all of the stuff that business throws at us. We need to invest in that if we want to ever get there. People will spend, I'm in a lot of business groups, entrepreneur groups. There are people who've been working on their business for like 10 to 20 years who are still only earning $2,000 a month or less. Because, and I've talked to them, and I know the programs they've invested in. They were under $1,000. And so they've spent 10 to 20 years investing in like $500 course, $800 program, whatever. They've actually built up those expenses, but they haven't taken off. They haven't earned the real money they want to earn because they're too afraid to take the risk and spend that kind of money on themselves. And to be honest, what that means to me is that they don't truly believe in themselves, because if you invest the right kind of money and the right kind of support, you'll earn back that money within 3 to 6 months' time. I earned like, I don't know exactly, but like, I don't know, maybe 5 times the amount I invested in my coach. So you have to invest 10% of what you want to make in your first year of business, right? If you want to make that in your first year, and if you want to make that and more year after year, you have to invest in yourself. Specifically, dance movement therapist, talking to you, right? Because I was the only dance therapist who was doing that. Like, that was hard, because the very first program that I invested in was great. It got me my first clients at a very low price, but like, I felt like she just didn't know, she just didn't get what I do. And I was like, oh, like, this is happening again. So frustrating, right? We spend a lot of our careers being like, no one gets it. No one knows what I do. And again, that's why I'm happy to make this video, because I spent a good amount of money working with people who just didn't understand what I did. And so I had to take the strategy that they taught me and try to translate it and align it with dance movement therapy. And it was really, really hard, because business alone is hard enough. So, you have to invest in the right kind of support, and you have to invest like a risky amount. Like, it will feel risky. If you believe in yourself and if you believe in the support that you're investing in, you'll make that money back again within 3 to 6 months. Last question, unless there's any other ones here. Okay. Last question. How do you approach movement over systems like Skype, Facebook, Zoom without sacrificing the important aspects of DMT? This is a big question. A lot of people have asked me this. I've gotten some criticism over this, and that's fine. So how do I approach movement? I don't recommend that you build an online dance movement therapy practice if you've only been a dance therapist for like, I don't know, 2-3 years or so. Even the years don't really matter. If you haven't been supervised closely by a dance movement therapist in your practice for at least 2 to 3 years, I'm just gonna say right here, don't do it. You have to trust, you have to have enough in-person experience to trust your body and to still be able to tune into your body and the kinesthetic empathy even through the screen. So that's my biggest thing, is that that's what I take from my in-person work, is like, I'm always tuned into myself. I feel what comes up in my body, right? If I'm short of breath, that signals to me something going on with the client. If my anxiety is raised, it signals to me, right? So most important things, paying attention to my own body and signals and responding from there. If I'm dysregulated, perhaps my client is dysregulated, we need to make sure we do that, because this is through the screen. We're not there in the room with them, and we have to make sure it's safe. So yeah, like number one is safety. You can still challenge your clients and still make it safe. And it just comes back to what I just said, like, you have to be tuned in enough to your body. You have to, I recommend moving, but having the in-person experience where you, like, that skill is so fine-tuned for you, is so developed for you, that you're not trying to work that out at the same time that you're providing a therapeutic experience. So you first need to be ready in order to do that. And in terms of safety, I wouldn't work with any clients who are in any kind of acute mentally ill state. I'm very particular about who I work with, and if it feels like it's going to be unsafe or risky, I don't work with them. In addition, so without sacrificing the important aspects of DMT, I think that question is also going to be different for everyone. Like, what's your theoretical approach? What are your core values, teachings, whatever, as a dance movement therapist? What are your core values? What are your core aspects of dance movement therapy? And can you do that without sacrificing? My biggest values, so like I do small group work online too, right? And of course, it's not going to look the same as group work in person. Like we don't have that 3D space. So I come back to some of the things that are really, really, really powerful. Of course, connecting to your own body, the reflection, the mirroring from other people is super duper important. Mirroring has always been a core value in my work. We can still do that online. And the third thing, that's 4. What is wrong with my hands? Okay, the third thing is movement metaphors. So those are 3 things that have always been super core to my approach. So I bring in imagery, we connect to movement metaphors, and we translate them in order to see how that's really relevant to the issues and challenges they're having in their lives and how to shift them. So those are the things that I bring into my sessions. Again, sure, there are some things that cannot be brought into through the screen. You can't physically touch, but there's so many creative ways to, like, if someone needs holding, maybe they have a scarf, maybe they hold themselves. There's just so many creative ways. And so if you have a wonderful capability of being spontaneous and creative in the moment, and like hearing and witnessing, a challenge or something that's coming up with the client in the moment, and you're really skilled already at translating that into something that they can experience in their body and move with, etc., then that's awesome. You're set. So that's just a little bit of what I do. So, in terms of reflection, it's like one of my favorite things that I do in group work online is, someone is having an issue, or someone wants to achieve something or like overcome an issue. We're at an hour and 12 minutes. I'm like now stumbling over my words. And so, you know, they can move it, but they can actually see their peers or the group, the other participants moving this. And they can get so much insight from seeing it on someone else. Excuse me, in my group program that I'm currently running right now, I'm working with 2 women who are struggling in their business, and they're like, oh, I really want to give up. Like, I don't know if this is worth it. And so the person who's like, each person who said, I really want to give up, this is so hard, maybe I should just go back to my job. The other people put that in their bodies. They moved it, they spoke it, they moved it. And you're like, so hard, you know, however that showed up in movement. And the person whose original thought this was, who's watching this, is like, one of the women was like, no, don't give up. You can do it, right? It's easier to experience compassion and empathy when you see it in someone else. But when it's in you, a lot of times we're like, oh, just give up. Like, you know, this is too hard, I can't do it. But she was like, no, guys, don't give up. So it's just an example. And I was like, maybe I should be a little more descriptive about what that looks like. Woo, okay. That was the last question that I got. And I'm gonna have some water now and take a breath. Let me know if you have any other questions in the next minute, or if you're catching the recording. You can leave a comment, may be able to answer that or not. And if you want to talk about this further together, if you want to understand what steps that you need to take next to start your own business and really like work exactly with the clients you love while earning a great amount of money, not sacrificing your time anymore, not pushing your self-care to the side anymore just to make ends barely meet, working with clients you don't really love, sometimes that you dread. If you want to have a chat about that, free, no obligation, we can just have a chat and I can help give you some direction. Even if you've never posted one thing on social media, right? Even if you have been trying to start a business for a while and nothing has been working, I bet that we can shift that. And we can talk about how you can shift that. Or we can talk about how you can still make 5 figures within 6 months, even if you've never posted anything on social media. So if you do want to have a chat, then send me a private message. You can click on my name over here, click on my profile, send me a message, and we'll set that up. And you know, I think I personally was really struggling for a while at my job. It wasn't just my job, it was years and years of seeing upwards of 200 clients a week, getting paid shit, and feeling like getting on the edge of being like, really? Is this what it's about? Like, this is my passion, but this is not sustainable. You know, I was dreading going into work every day, and I knew private practice wasn't going to be the answer. Most people in private practice are overworked, underpaid, and they have a really hard time getting clients, especially the clients they love. So I knew there had to be something different. And I have invested all this time and money and made a bunch of mistakes as the first dance movement therapist who has really built an online business this way, so that you don't have to. It's so that you can save time, money, energy, and like know that you are not trapped in your job. You don't have to sacrifice your self-care or time or paycheck or income just to live out your dreams. You can have it all. So that was a huge relief to me. And if you want any help in understanding the steps that you need to take to have that as well, then book that chat with me. And whether we take the next steps or not, no obligation, no pressure. I don't do high pressure sales or anything like that. You can have a great amount of clarity on what you need to do next. So hope this was helpful. And thanks for joining me, and thanks for all your questions. And I'm sure I will see you again soon. Bye.